Hello, YouTube world. My name is Samuel Gaona, and I am the author of the recently published book, Rite of the Quinceañera. Since publishing this book, and now months after publishing, I've gotten two main questions that kind of follow the same narrative, and the answers to those questions kind of follow a similar narrative as well. The first question is, what made me decide to write a book on the subject of the quinceañera? The second question is, what do I plan to write about next? The second question is easy because I don't plan on writing anything next. I didn't write a book to attempt a career or a side hustle as an author. Writing the book just happened to progress in that direction. When my daughter was born, even before she turned 1, my wife and I were in agreement that she would have a quinceañera. Along the journey, my wife and I were in agreement that her quinceañera would take place in the Catholic Church. A few years ago, when my daughter was 13, my wife and I began preparing for the quinceañera celebration. We knew we needed a church for the ceremony, and we needed a place for the reception. Having both of these, we could then fill them with everybody and everything. As an active member of the Knights of Columbus, which our council serves the historic Columbian Home Event Center, a location for our reception was pretty much given. It was going to be at the Columbian Home Event Center. There are multiple reasons why I was discouraged to have her quinceañera at my home parish. I've been pretty particular about my children's formation. Even good information, at the bare minimum, is not the formation I would settle on. So I've always sought above and beyond when I teach, as well as when my children are being taught. I began contacting other parishes in the surrounding areas to inquire about the requirements. Did we need to register at their parish? Is there a fee for the church? And what type of class or classes would our daughter need to take? My answers were one of two. I either got they didn't have classes because they did not participate in quinceañeras, or my answer was your daughter just needs to take a chastity class. Now, as important as chastity is for anybody at any age, but most certainly our youth, I expressed that I was hoping there was more to preparing these young ladies. As I was expanding my inquiries further from my home parish, I got a call back in which one of the parish priests was curious, what did I have in mind? I gave a couple of topics off the top of my head, which led to a meeting with the priest, the family ministry coordinator, and the youth ministry coordinator. I was then given the green light to write the curriculum, schedule the series, and deliver. That fall, when my daughter had turned 14, we held a 6-week series. My daughter and a handful of other girls preparing for their quinceañera were in attendance, along with mothers, fathers, and grandparents. And godparents were there as well. Following the second series in the spring, the youth coordinator decided to focus on 4 main areas and formatted those topics into a 1-day retreat. I was invited to lead one of those topics. During the retreat, the youth coordinator had compiled my handouts from the 6-week series, offering it as additional reading material. Being put together in a binder, it looked like a book. Although it looked like a book, this is still not the reason I decided to publish my work. During the 6-week series and my segment in the retreat, consistent commentary from parents and grandparents was, "I've never heard it put that way. That makes it so much easier to understand. I wish I had something like this when I was a teen." Since I didn't have a place to continue to deliver what seemed to be beneficial to those who attended, it is then that I began looking into publishing my work. There were several publishing groups that offered the overview. The publishing process pretty much began with creating a transcript, submitting that transcript, and sometimes there was a fee along with it, and the publishers would review and respond anywhere between 6 months to 2 years, letting you know as to whether or not your book would be published. To modify curriculum into a transcript, I removed some in-class activities, I changed lesson to chapter, and there were a couple of areas that were expanded on further since class presentation was under the pressure of time. Some publishers gave a tip to research your topic to determine what others were charging for the same subject, and there was a warning that if your book subject was oversaturated, if there were too many books already out there on the subject, it would be less likely that your book would be chosen for publishing. There are hundreds of Quinceañera guest books. There are hundreds of Quinceañera how-to books with advice, from financial planning all the way down to be sure to drink water before, during, and after the party. There were a handful of books about the historic and cultural significance of the Quinceañera. There was one book, however, with mature religious teachings for youth, and it revolved around the Quinceañera. Since we are body and soul, we need physical nourishment as well as spiritual nourishment. There were no books that unified the social and religious aspects to guide our youth in this new stage in their life journey. And so I chose to self-publish to get this available sooner than later. It seemed this would be beneficial to adult and youth alike, which I did not want to linger in uncertainty for 6 months to 2 years while publishers tried to figure out if they could even profit from it. I did not plan to write a book or become an author. The curriculum I wrote progressed in that direction. I published a book about the Quinceañera because a book that pertains to the whole being of the youth, body and soul, social and religious, did not exist. Now the burden of letting people know a book like this exists is mine, since I did not go through a publishing agency to help me spread the word. Yet I stand on this work to be beneficial to adult and youth alike. If anything else comes my way in that same direction, I'll be glad to publish more work. I will be content, though, if Rite of the Quinceañera is my only book. When one writes a book, their greatest desire is for it to be read. If one person buys one copy and that copy is read by 3 or 4 people, that is 3 or 4 people I'm able to reach without needing a location or scheduled time to teach, which is exactly why the book is exclusively available in paperback. For families preparing to have a quinceañera, for those who are invited to participate in a quinceañera, and for those who just want to know more about the subject, I encourage you to buy it, read it, and then pass it on to someone you think would benefit from it. Rite of the Quinceañera by Samuel Gaona, exclusively in paperback, currently available on Amazon. The link is in the description. And perhaps you'll do me a favor and share this video because someone out there could use this beneficial work.